Hello and welcome to Impact Africa, where we have conversations with diverse people and organizations who are impacting lives and communities positively. In addition, we use the platform to celebrate positive news, people and places. I am Dr. Kemi Akiode Adebayo, also known as Dr. Mama K, and in today's program to share an amazing story is a dear sister friend. I've known her for a while and we only just reconnected recently, a timely reconnection. She is the visionary and resilient. I could describe her as, in terms of what she is, Ms. Zanele Mthembu. She is the founder and owner and managing director of Panther Films, which is based in Johannesburg, South Africa. In addition, Ms. Zanele does many things. She's a lecturer, she's a broadcast media guru, I will call her. She is an advocate for kidney awareness and education. And as well, she has her own NPO, who does a lot in the community. But I'm not going to tell you all about her. Let's find out more from Zanele, my sister. How are you today?
I am well. It's a beautiful day in Cape Town.
I know it is. Yeah, we're in Cape Town. So, she is here all the way from Johannesburg and we're in Cape Town.
And I get to be interviewed in Cape Town. No, it's a beautiful day. It's a wonderful day.
Welcome to Impact Africa.
Thank you very much.
Who is Zanele? Tell us about Zanele. Where was Zanele born? Life growing up, education, anything you want to share.
Okay, Zanele was born in Johannesburg to Theophilus and Johanna Mthembu. I am the fourth of 6 girls.
Ooh.
So my name is Zanele, which means they are enough. These girls are enough, because my dad thought I would be the last born. But lo and behold, 5 years later, we had number 5, and then later on number 6. Okay. So our names are really a story to tell. But yeah, I was supposed to be the last born. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And I grew up in Soweto, but then I left Soweto and my dad took me to Durban, where I stayed with my aunt. In my formative years, primary school, high school, I then went to a private school in Durban called Inanda Seminary.
Okay.
That's where I studied for my high school. I came out of Inanda, did my undergraduate at the University of Zululand. At the time, we couldn't go to, mixed universities. And after that, worked in Joburg. And from there, I went overseas.
Before we go to your overseas trip, let's go back a little bit to you being the 4th child of 4 girls. And your dad, I know your dad was a famous boxer. And, tell us about that. Just share that with us.
Oh, yeah. My dad, himself a boxer, but he got injured. I think he was a bantamweight champion, Transvaal champion at the time, in the 50s. Got injured, couldn't continue, unfortunately, with his boxing career because of the injury. And then he decided to start a boxing club instead, because his ambition was to become a world champion. And when that dream failed, he felt that he could vicariously live that dream by training somebody else to become a world champion. And that's why he started the boxing club. He started it when he was still living in Alexander Township, moved to Soweto, Dube, where our home is up to today. And he started a club not very far from our home, actually walking distance. And from that club, he produced a number of champions. But because it was all during apartheid, he unfortunately didn't realize that initial dream through one of his boxers, Anthony Blue Jaguar Murodi. They all have these names in boxing. It didn't happen for him. So when things started opening up, he then started training baby Jake Matlala, who then went on to become a 4-time world champion. So he did realize that dream. And from someone who's almost of the same stature as him, because Jake was quite short, my dad wasn't a very tall guy. And he had heart more than anything, So, and that's what actually encouraged my dad in in training him and grooming him to be a world champion, because he was that kind of guy who had heart, he had determination, never say die kind of attitude. And you need that, particularly because Jake's early career it was kind of lackluster, it wasn't great, but he didn't give up on him. So you trained him until Jake then became a world champion. So my dad was also a journalist.
So that's probably, we'll come to that. So he was a journalist.
He was also a journalist, and then he, boxing trainer, manager, a father to 6 girls, and he traveled the world because of boxing, and he really influenced my life. I think that's why I got into media in the first place, because of him. When they were journalists, they used to take photographs, So I used to see all these photographs. Sometimes I would attend some of the tournaments with him, and my love for pictures began there. But the only thing that was missing is that these pictures, the people in the pictures couldn't talk. They couldn't tell me anything.
Right.
As much as a picture is worth 1,000 words, it's true, but I wish these people would move and tell me what was happening. What were they feeling? What were they thinking? And so that's what inspired me to get into television when it was introduced in South Africa. And also just the love for travel came from him, because I love the fact that he would bring us stuff from Mexico, from Brazil, from Australia. So I really began to really have this love for travel from him. So he was a big influence in my life.
Let me go back to you and your sisters now. Because obviously you're all grown up in the fourth, you're kind of a middle child.
I know. I don't know exactly, but I'm almost a middle.
So, and you have a dad that travels, everywhere, and boxing journalist, and mom, was mom a stay at home? Mom, or was she working?
I almost forget about my mom, because my mom died quite young.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay.
I was 12 when she passed, and my younger sister was 4. So my dad brought us up, all of us. Wow. My eldest sister was only 22. Wow. So she became like a deputy mom to us, our eldest sister. But my dad became the mom and the father. He was there from when I was 12 until I was in almost 40-something when he passed away, So, he's been there all my life. So I almost forgot about my mom, because she wasn't there for when I was growing up, in my formative, when in my teenage years and when I was becoming a woman. So my dad was there for us. He was the one that knew that girls have their periods and that we have to buy sanitary towels. He knew everything, and he did. He knew if we needed underwear, I almost forget.
Who was the favorite? Because essentially that is girl, and I can tell the way you're still passionately speaking about him. Who was the favorite? I'm sure he never told you he had a favorite.
No, he didn't.
Because I can relate to having a lot of girls and all of them teasing you, especially one that plays the dual role of a mother and a father at a very tender age. So were you one of favorite?
I think we were close. No, I think we were close because I was interested in the same things he was interested in. He was a journalist, had an interest in that field. He loved to travel. I loved to travel. Early photographs of our family, I'm not there because I was always somewhere, visiting friends, doing something. So that love for travel, for exploring, for knowing things, investigating things, finding out things, I get from him. So I think we were close because of that. And later on, we also just somehow had the same interest in boxing. And I dated somebody that was interested in boxing, so my dad liked that. So I think I became a favorite because of it. Yeah,
so let's go now to your trip after, studying and then going to leaving South Africa to study. Why did you decide on that? Was it just what you wanted to study? And how was that for you, leaving South Africa?
To be very honest, at the time, I did think about the US, but I never really saw myself going there. Okay. It was when I had just started working for Penguin Films, which is actually based here in Cape Town, Penguin Films. That's where I cut my teeth in the industry. Right. It's at Penguin Films. And one of my colleagues saw an advert in the paper where they were looking for what Discovery described as an outstanding South African to apply for a scholarship. So it was a competition, and then this one outstanding South African would then be sent to the US to study and work for Discovery. So that was done when Discovery was launching in South Africa at the time. So my colleague showed me this advert. At the time, I was traveling around the country. You know, when you're filming, you're everywhere. And and it was just before the elections. No, just after the elections. So it was quite busy. There were a lot of programs that we were doing. And I kept ignoring it, you know, leaving and coming back. And I remember she said to me, you know, Zanele, this is you. I can tell you this is you. Apply for this thing and you will leave. I mean, and you will get it. And I remember it was on the very last day of submissions. I drove to Pretoria. A friend of mine drove me to Pretoria to hand in the application on the very last day because she was sitting on my neck telling me I must apply. And as they say, the rest is history. I did get, you know, the fellowship program, and that's how I left South Africa for the US. So I left, I was sitting pretty, I must say, because I had a full scholarship and I had an opportunity to work for a world-renowned company. I mean, Discovery is Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, you know. So for me, when I finally realized this is happening, my eyes went gaga, like, what? You know, I'm going to work for this company. So that's how it happened for me. It wasn't even something that I was really planning. It's because somebody believed in me. Yeah.
I love that, believed in you.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll be right back. Wow, Zanele, born in Johannesburg, fourth of 6 girls, Zanele even meaning they are enough. And you know, the love and relationship between yourself and your dad, a world-renowned boxer who was putting back as well in the community, who played the role of mother and father because you sadly lost your mom at an early age, and him being a journalist as well, and the traveling, and you going abroad to school, and you know, working with Discovery. So much in there. Let me start first before I go on to your career. As a South African, what are you mostly proud of?
I think as a South African, I'm proud of our resilience. I think we don't really see that because there are so many challenges in South Africa at the moment, but we are a very resilient nation. And I'm proud of the fact that as much as we have, you know, this violence from time to time, it's not the type of violence that has escalated like to civil war. And I'm really grateful for the peace that we have in this country. I think we don't appreciate enough the unique position that we're in, because even looking at our neighboring countries like Mozambique, you know, looking at DRC, the Congo, and all these other countries on the continent that have civil war, where there's instability, we have had peace through all the transitions that we've had. Through, you know, right now we're very unhappy about our government. We are hopeful, but we're still very unhappy. But even there hasn't been any uprisings that have caused this country to go into that type of turmoil, you know. So I'm proud of that as a people, that we do prioritize those things. I'm proud of the fact that there seems to be, especially amongst the older generation, that they're still pushing. They're pushing. What I'd like to see is the handover to the new generation. Because in our culture as Black people, I think, and I'm going to generalize here, it's not, but we're not very good at handing over to the next generation, because we see even with businesses, the people that pioneer and start the businesses, they fail when they get to the next generation. So that training up of the next generation and handing over the baton to them early on is really important for us. But I'm proud to be a South African for the reasons that I've mentioned. Yeah.
Interesting. So now let's go to your career. And obviously, as a proud South African, some of what you've said, you've been resilient with your career, you know, being in the media, broadcasting, film, you've worked at ETV, Penguin, Discovery, and a lot of others. When I was reading your CV, I'm like, oh my. I think that was why I was nervous at the beginning of this. I'm like, this lady has a lot of, you know, background, you know, working your way within different departments. So, and then you decided to start up Panther Films. So why did you decide that, and when did you start, and why that name?
Yeah. Well, Brown Panther was actually my father's boxing name.
Ah,
that's where the name comes from.
You see, you were the favorite, so I don't know why.
So I started Brown Panther Films, and the reason I started it initially was to do a documentary on my father's life and the work that he has done. And we started it together when he was still alive, you know, writing the story. Particularly, he was interested in telling the story of South Africa through boxing, because we tell it through politics and stuff like that, but we don't really tell it through sports. And him being a journalist, you know, having put a lot of this material together, we then started to work on it. And he did appreciate that an audiovisual medium would be the most powerful medium than a book or anything like that. So that's why I started the Brown Panther Films in the first place. But then I went into broadcasting and I kind of put it aside, and he passed away, so I kind of put everything on the side, on hold, and continued working. And when I came out of e-media at the time, I was done with e-media, and then I decided, you know, it's time for me to give back. It's time for me to help young, you know, aspirant filmmakers understand the industry and be able to navigate the industry. And what was important was their knowledge of, their understanding of the business. Yes, it's an art form, but ultimately it's a business. It's like producing a product that needs to be sold somewhere. And you can be passionate about film, but be passionate about understanding that it's a product that you can exploit and make money from. And that's when I decided I'm going to reopen Brown Panther Films and continue with the documentary on my dad, but also help young people by mentoring them, you know, executive producing their work so that they can finish their projects. And the aim there was really, really to help them understand the business of it holistically, you know, the finances, the administration, what you need. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you wear a lot of hats. And I don't think we are ever that prepared of the number of hats we have to wear. You've got to understand the legal. When you're employing people, you've got to understand that you have an HR role. You know, you've got to be your own bookkeeper. You do your marketing. You do. So that's what I really want. I still want to do that at a much bigger scale. But that's the reason why I reopened Brown Panther Films. And yeah, I'm continuing with that. It's slow. It's very interesting that I've been in the industry for so many years. But when you are back on the, you know, on the production side of things, it's a whole new game. Again, things have changed and things are continuously changing. It's quite dynamic. So it keeps me on my toes.
So, I think my first question: did you ever finish the documentary for your dad? I think that's
no.
one.
I haven't finished it because it became much bigger than I expected. And I can tell you now, the budget for that production is 6 million rand.
Wow.
And a big part of it is the archive. So I've learned, you know, new lessons about how to, as much as it's a well-written story and it's got part of the funding, but because of the archive, it's costing a lot more. So now I have to reconfigure the story so that we don't have as much archive and then make it work. Because that archive, even when you clear the rights, it depends which countries you're clearing for, you know. So there's a lot. So now we've had to relook that. We've shot some interviews, but people are also passing away because they're older. So now you've got constantly change things. And but now I have, after the advice and consulting with other people, I've been told, since I have such a strong voice and I was there for a lot of the fights and I was there with my dad on a number of things, I should tell it from my point of view. I've been very uncomfortable about doing that because I don't like being in front of the camera. But I have consulted with another producer to help me structure.
You're doing very well in front of the camera now. But I know it's a different one. But now let me go now to in the media, broadcasting, film industry. What are some of the challenges, for you that you've encountered, within it, and how have you managed, to deal with it? Because I know one of the biggest issues that I've heard, from other people is the sexual harassment and a lot of other things. But for you, that either personally or based on, what others have told you, what are some of the challenges, in that industry, and how did you overcome it, or how can one overcome it?
For me personally, and I'll speak from my experience, and is navigating the industry has become more complicated because of this convergence of information technology, film. So it's ever evolving and new things are coming up. So you've got to keep abreast of how productions are made, how film is made. We're dealing with AI now. There's a lot of visual effects. And there's just so much that is happening. So you have to keep abreast of that. And even in terms of distribution of the content, it is a whole new ball game. We get they call them OTT platforms, they call over-the-top platforms, your Netflixes and stuff that have come into play. Your broadcasters, there's paid television, there's free-to-air television, so it's evolving all the time. So you've got to keep abreast of that. And so for me, that's why it's important to remain as an executive producer, because then I have the time to read about what's happening. I have the time to attend different, workshops, conferences, so that I know what is happening, and I can then inform what we are doing. So those have been the challenges. The technology, what is happening just in terms of how content is produced is a new challenge, and also because I'm coming from the broadcaster side of things, I'm now coming back into the industry. I haven't been in the industry for a very long time. That's another challenge of now adjusting to being on the producing side when you are used to being on the supervising side of things. There are advantages because I know what broadcasters expect, but there are also disadvantages because I've been away from it for a very long time. But what it has helped me with is that it's allowed me to be comfortable in being an executive producer and not want to be hands-on and allow people that are used to it to do it.
Right.
You see. Yeah, but that's been a challenge for me, the adjustment. Definitely sexual harassment is an issue. I haven't experienced it personally, but because of the organization that I work with, which is called Sisters Working in Film and Television, SWIFT, it is just unbelievable, the levels of sexual harassment in South Africa, and the fact that there is nothing serious that's been done about it. Very slow response, let me not say lack of, but very slow response from the platforms, the broadcasters, and the other networks in addressing this, because they've got to provide funding to prevent that. It must be a line item in all budgets so that we can have an effective solution, to the problem. So that has been very slow. So that is one of my biggest challenges, is that in 2025, we are still dealing with sexual harassment because it is part of gender-based violence, And the last thing that for me has been a challenge is that some of the issues or challenges that I faced when I started in the industry as a black woman still exist in 2025. A study that was done by the National Film and Video Foundation shows that production company owners are not making as much money as their white counterparts, for instance. Their business are not as viable. So where is the
How
disconnect?
do we fix it?
Yes, it's understanding the business side of things. It's understanding that everyone has to be granted the same opportunities.
Yeah.
Because we can't be perpetually trained
Yeah.
as black filmmakers. You know, at some point we've got to be given an opportunity, because even the white counterparts, our white counterparts, were given the opportunities. That's how they grew and began to understand and know how to make this thing work. So opportunity is very important. You can't tell me that because I'm new in the industry, I've got to be so-and-so's understudy. They were never understudies to anybody. Why should we be understudies now? So we need decision makers to recognize that we've got to be given the same opportunities that were afforded our white counterparts earlier on in the industry. That's the only way we can advance. And the same, number the same amount of work as well. Once we're in there, I'm not saying give me 3 million when I you don't know I can manage 500,000 yet, but give me the opportunity and let me build up to that 3 million, and not say, oh, we're just going to be giving them 500,000. That's not,
That's not empowering.
No, it's not empowering, and it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable at all. Wow,
so that's my challenge.
In there. Before we close the segment, I know we've overrun, but I'm fine, because there's a lot for me that I know we need to just, get from you, because this is the industry we're in, as well. What have you been mostly proud of, though, irrespective of this challenge that you've said? I know you've got a few awards and recognition, here and there, but for you, what have you been mostly proud of?
I've been proud of, I will start with Swift.
Okay.
Sisters Working in Film and Television is moving the needle.
Right.
When it comes to empowering women, creating opportunities for them. We are now recognized by government as an organization, which is a big deal for us. We're not only recognized in South Africa, we now have a chapter in Namibia, so we are branching out, because I believe that we have to, in fact, have something that's ours as African women before.
Yes.
Exactly.
Because it's the same experience.
Same
experience in Zimbabwe,
absolutely.
in Malawi.
So we've got a partnership with Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Tsitsi Tangaremba's organization.
Okay.
And now another sister who's based in France, but she's from Djibouti.
Okay.
So that for me, it makes me very proud that Swift is doing that work, and we are starting to come together as Pan-African women, to form this coalition, because if we work together, that's when we are really going to see a difference, and that's when we can have the mass to move things. They see that we're not acting in isolation only as South Africa, but that we're working with the rest of the women on the continent. Then we're able to have a very powerful voice when we speak to the French or the Germans or the Americans or whoever, because we're a collective. That for me, I'm very proud of seeing that beginning to happen. I'm also very proud that the institutions that are, well, I'll speak for the one that I work for, which is the Tshwane University of Technology. They are now really doing a lot to make sure that they produce students that work on equipment and understand what is happening, that is current, and the things that are happening in the industry, the software that is being used in the industry. There's still some things that need to be adjusted, but it's practical. It's not theoretical like when we went to university. Everything was theory. Now it's quite practical. I'm really proud of what the universities are doing and the type and the caliber of student that they are producing. And the other thing that I'm proud of is to see that, young people are also taking the lead. They are not waiting for someone to give them something. They're taking the lead. I mean, they're saying, okay, fine, nobody can help me. Let me use my phone. Let me make a phone. I'm proud of that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Personally, I'm proud of that.
Awesome. We'll be right back.
Now more than ever, women in our industry
need to support each other to eradicate sexual harassment. Too many women are silenced by perpetrators or remain silent from fear of losing opportunities. SWIFT condemns sexual harassment and discrimination of women, and we are working towards creating spaces in the television and film industry that are safe. We are also working on empowering women and 50-50 representation of women in front of and behind the camera. I, Zanele Mthembu, chairperson of the SWIFT board, encourage women to stand up and speak out against sexual harassment. It is time to find your voice.
Wow, the previous segment, that was just so powerful for me. You were so passionate about, the career. You starting as an entrepreneur with Brown Panther Films, your dad's influence again, and what Swift sisters working in film and television are doing. Kudos to you, moving the needle, like you said, and not just working in South Africa, but branching out to other African countries, and as well some of the challenges you shared there, the distribution, the sexual harassment, and how the solutions could be more opportunities being given, and a lot that you shared there. Now let's go back to you personally, and I think I can tell. What are the 3 things or people or items, could be anything, that you value most in life, and what motivates you, as a person? Let me start with that now.
For me, it's God first. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for His grace. So for me, my faith is so important. It anchors everything that I'm about. So that is the first thing. It starts there. And then it's family. We are very close as a family, and I'm grateful because of my father. He made sure that he brings us together and we stay together because he did not remarry. He brought up all these girls on his own. So that has made me really value family, and that sometimes there are sacrifices you have to make that are worthwhile in the long run. So for me, family is very important. And thirdly, I value friendship as well. Proverbs talks about friends that love at all times. And I've seen it in my life and what I've been through. Friends who have been there and have stood with me, and I've been there and I've stood with them. So I value that. But I also value people for who they are. People created in the image of God, special, God breathed His breath into them. So no matter where you come from, if I come into contact with you, there's a reason for me coming into contact with you. And I learn something from people, and hopefully I do something for them as well. And the rest then kind of follows. Yeah.
So what motivates you? Well, I know all that probably motivates you, but is there anything else that keeps you? Your reason, your why?
My why is that, why? Especially at this point in my life, because it changes on where you are in life, where I am in my life. By the way, I'm in preferment now. I'm not in retirement or anything. I'm in preferment. I do what I prefer.
I like that. I've not heard that one.
So what I prefer now and what motivates me, it's work that is beneficial to somebody else. If it can benefit something that is meaningful to someone, then I want to be involved in it. It's got to be meaningful. Secondly, what motivates me is something that inspires me and can inspire somebody else, right? What I do can inspire somebody else. And thirdly, it has to feed my soul. I've got to be able to put my head down, lie down and say, wow, that was a great day. That was a wonderful thing that I've done. And be motivated to then get up the next morning, So that's where I am right now. So if it doesn't check those 3 boxes of being meaningful, of being inspirational, and of being soulful, feeding the soul, then it's not worth for me to be involved in it.
Powerful. I said earlier at the beginning of the program, when I introduced you, that support kidney awareness and education. Why did you decide to do that? Do you want to share that with us?
It's well, I'm a beneficiary of kidney organ donation. It's been 25 years. And I am really, really grateful for that gift of someone making a decision to give an organ to someone, so that someone else that they don't even know, so that that person can have a life, a lease on life. And I happened to be that person. So that changed the way I see things in such a radical way, you know. It equates to the gift that Christ gave for me on the cross by dying for us. So this family saw their son die, but out of him, they were able to save other people's lives, and I was one of those lives that were saved. So they left a legacy through me, which is part of my motivation to do what I'm doing, is to say, you know what, let their son's kidney not be in vain, the gift not be in vain. It's taken me a while because I've been very busy, you know, but now, because of what I've said, of the work that I'm doing now and how I look at things, this is why I decided I'm going to educate around kidney disease. And mainly because 1 in 8 people suffer from chronic kidney disease in South Africa. 1 in 8. So I have 8, in my group of friends, there are 8 of us, right? So I'm one of that 8, which is what the statistics say. So what can we do to prevent that from happening? Because it can be prevented. Because the leading causes of chronic kidney disease is hypertension and diabetes, which is prevalent amongst us Black people. We are significantly and disproportionately affected by those 2 conditions than other races. So that's why I felt I can do something to help prevent people from ending up with chronic kidney disease, and eventually it leads to kidney failure, and then you're on dialysis, you know. Also creating awareness about organ donation, which is very low amongst us, again, as Black people, unfortunately. But also educating people about when your loved one is now on dialysis, what do you do? Because I've gone through all of that myself. Because it's prevention. What would we do with people that are on dialysis and families of people that are on dialysis? And then how do we promote organ donation? So yeah, that's what I'm looking at now.
You know, I really feel I should even have had a program separate on this particular topic. And now because there's so much I want to even ask you. And, you know, it's so daunting, you know, as well, that sometimes we don't pay attention to them, you know, the organ donation bit, you know, and I've had experience as well, you know, recently where a close cousin, you know, very young, passed on suddenly, but she had made that decision to donate some of her organs, you know, at that age. And I know we're not talking, you know, about all these things. You know, she donated her eyes, donated her pupil, donated this. And for me, you know, it's like, wow, you know, at that young age, she had thought about it. And then what you're saying, the fact that we could reverse some of this. So I really would have wanted to do a separate program, but we'll probably come back to you to you know, ask
I'm happy
more,
to talk
you know,
about
it.
Yeah.
We'll have the one on the media and broadcast, and then the one, you know, about that. I'm going to stop for a quick break as well, and then we'll come back, you know, just for a few more questions. So we'll be right back.
Sure.
segment was so deep and powerful for me. What keeps you going? God, and your faith, family, and people and friendship. And for me, those are key important things. And what motivates you? We went into about organ donation as well, and a lot of other things we spoke there. So, if you really want to hear more, you need to rewind. Because I even trying to recap is like I could go on to talk about a lot of things, and I really salute your dad, for the legacy he has left, in all that is done, because it's not common. Sorry, I'm going to digress a little bit here, where an African father has 6 girls, didn't get married again after she lost your mom.
Yeah.
And still brought you guys up, and the impact, and the legacy is left, for you guys. It's not common, because they will either have said, "Oh no, I want a male child. Will have gotten married to all those traumas as we in Africa that we have." But anyway, that's probably another topic as well. How did you do it? Because you were close to him, so we want to hear about it. Now let's go to a little bit something that is different for our final segment. Zanele at this stage in a preferment season, not retirement. Would you say you're successful? What's your definition of success? And I know it's deep. And as well, leadership. You lead so many, organizations, and you've led, as well, people with ETV, Penguin, Swift now, and a lot of other roles, different hats that you wear. And even within your Brown Panther Films production, what does leadership, mean to you? And what qualities, sorry, it's a 3-part question.
Okay.
What qualities should one have as a leader?
So, starting
you can
with
go in any order,
yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Starting with the success story, for me, success is very personal. In terms of what do you set out to do and whether you are able to achieve that or not. For me, being here today and being able to do everything that I'm doing now is success in and of itself. The fact that I am able to lecture young people and give a part of me, of my knowledge, of my experience is success. That someone recognizes that I've got something to offer. That's success, Success is also about leaving a legacy, If I have young people who come to me and they say, I once came to your office. Some of them, I don't even remember them. I had this project and I sat with you, you had the time for me, this is what you told me, I've applied it, and this is what I'm doing now. That's success, because you've positively impacted someone's life. Success for me is also the fact that I have kept the same friends over a long period, years and years and years, And that's success, because it means there's something about us or about me as well that is able to build lasting relationships. That's success for me. The fact that my family is still together even after we've lost both of our parents, but even our children say, they are close to each other. They are close as we are close to each other. That for me is success, that we've done something right. That's success for me. It's nothing complicated, I think. It's what you've set out to do. Have you done it? And how do you measure whether you've done it? And with the young people coming to me, I've done something right. I'm lecturing. Someone sees value in me. Our family is together. I have the same friends. And people that I meet, are still, that for me is success.
So
I've led a
leadership?
successful life. Leadership is really about influence. Who have you influenced in your life? And it comes back to the young people that I'm talking about now. Part of it comes from that. that just before the festive season, I was attending a Netflix event, and this young woman came to me and she says, "I know you don't remember me. You're at ETV, I can still picture your office. I asked you something and you answered me. You were just so kind. You were not, busy people like all these executives are always busy. You had time to sit with me. And today I'm working for Netflix." And and I was like, "What?" And she said, I come to your office. I know you won't remember me." That's leadership, when you influence someone's life in a positive way. For me, that's leadership. That's leadership when your family, especially the next generation, like I said, our children, they can say to you, "Thank you for having done this for me. Thank you for having invested in me, not just in terms of money, taking me to school, but the things that you share and being open and vulnerable with us. Thank you for that." That for me is leadership. Leadership is also being able to influence someone else, as someone who's a Christian, and be able to tell them about my faith, and that faith converts them for them to want what I have. For me, that's leadership.
Beautiful. And qualities? What qualities should a leader have?
Integrity is the first one.
Okay.
Integrity is very important, because you can't be blue, tomorrow you are red.
I like that one.
Your character can't be questionable. Integrity is very important. I think honesty is very important, and I've learned that the hard way. In that, sometimes you're eager. I do it now. You've got to really think about what you are being asked and whether you're going to be able to deliver on that or not. So if you're not able to, be able to say no and be comfortable in saying no. I think no is a very difficult thing. So for me, being honest with people, whether you can do something or not, is important in leadership. What is also important, I think, in leadership is being consistent. And something that I wanted to say, it slips my mind right now, but also in staying the course, being resilient, and not allowing life to affect you. So even if it knocks you down, you get up and you continue. You stay on track. So that's resilience, just staying on track until you achieve what you need to achieve. I've learned that when there's only two things, that when you ask somebody, being able to ask for help is very important for me, and not think you can do it all, because it's not possible. And I've learned to ask for help. And you should expect a yes or a no. It's just part of it, And when someone says no, it's fine. Go and ask somebody else. But you'll never know until you ask whether that person is going to argue. But, ask for help. That's one thing I've learned. Ask for help.
I completely agree with you. I was actually going to lead on, to life lessons, that you've learned over the years that you could give to a younger Zanele in Soweto, 7-year-old, that this is what you need to do or avoid. But you've already covered a lot of it. But is there anything else, that you could say, okay, you know what? Maybe I could have done it this way, or do you have regrets? Do you have, any life lessons, any more for the, because what you've shared there, that end, was more or less life lessons that you've learned. But is there
for
any
me,
more?
outside of work, and it's just about you as a person and how you conduct yourself in life. Growing up, I didn't have a mother, and sometimes my father would say things that I didn't understand because men do talk in a very wired differently. Like he would say something and be like, what? So I would go ahead and do it because I didn't understand him. So he just lacked the vocabulary to say what he was saying. But in retrospect, I see what he was saying. So what I would say to young people today is sometimes it's worth waiting for something. We'll talk about sexual relations, you know. I wish I had someone who told me then, when I was young, that you don't have to rush anything. You don't have to do things you don't want to do. You know, you can wait, and there's nothing that you lose out of waiting. You know, and that's something that I wish I had, because when you are able to say no to something, especially sexual relations, it's more of a strength than anything, because now you're told that you're actually not with it, or you're weak or whatever. Actually, you are very strong when you can say no to that. So it means you have it within you to stand against what the culture, what the norm is. That's powerful, more than what we are told. You know, no, if you don't, you know, because every young person is doing it, then no, actually when you're able to say no, you are the strongest person in the room. I wish someone had told me that, that I have it within me to say no, and I'm still okay saying no. Secondly, the whole alcohol thing, it bugs me a lot. The amount of alcohol we consume as a nation is just too much, you know. And I think a big part of it is we are not talking about the things that really affect us. Emotionally, psychologically, mentally, you know. That's why mental health is very important, you know. And for me, that's important to say. If you see your child, or if we see ourselves, or whoever drinking too much, the question is, what is going on? Because usually it's a cover for something that is happening. So we must prioritize mental health these days. So those are the things that even for myself, I apply, particularly in terms of taking care of my mental health. When I'm not okay, I can afford to go to a psychologist. Maybe somebody else can't, but talk to someone, get help, and talk about these things, and not stigmatize talking about these things. That's what makes me sleep at night. That's what keeps me going, because I'm not afraid to be vulnerable with people.
Wow, what can I say? You can see I've been writing. I know you're a lecturer, so we're pretending we're in school now, because you're telling me so much, you know, for me that is like a master class, you know, already in terms of some of what you've shared, some of what you're passionate, you know, about. And obviously in terms of socioeconomic issues, health, you know, you've mentioned all that, and what else, you know, can be done within, you know, all those industries. But I really want to ask you more, but I know now I probably have to stop so that we can have more to have conversation, you know, in the future. But what I want you to do before we what's the word? Close. Is to give words of encouragement, you know, to anyone, you know, out there who might have listened to some of what you've shared, or who just, I don't know, you can speak, who you want to speak to. But if you could please just give just whatever you want to give, word of encouragement.
Okay. I have one. Yeah. So for this one, I look at the camera?
Yes, please.
Okay. So my word of encouragement for everyone is that know that there is only one of you. You have no carbon copy anywhere. So believe in yourself. Know that you are created to be who you are. There is no mistake that God made in your creation. You are created with so much love, with so much respect. All the qualities and the characteristics that you have were meant just for you. So believe in yourself, trust yourself, and if anything, be inspired by other people, learn from other people, but don't be an imitator of other people. Be true to who you are and do what you are comfortable in doing for yourself.
Oh, there's a lot in there. Yeah, trust who you are, believe in yourself. There's only one of you. And I could go on about some of those snippet, that you've been given, or those kind of things that you'll really, really think about. We salute you. We see you, ma'am. We recognize all the impact you've made, knowingly or unknowingly, to life, and you shared one experience already. And sometimes I know, because I know sometimes I feel that way, where I'm thinking, am I making a difference? Is it working, or is it just, okay, yeah, I know I'm making a difference, but is it enough? But one life. I think that's what I always go to as well. That even if it's only one life that we manage to touch through this program, and that's enough. That's more than enough. So thank you.
Thank you
for what you've done in the industry that you are, and in this your preferment season that you've decided to give back and to do more, and at the same time looking after yourself. So we celebrate you. We see you, we honor you, and we pray that God that has called you and has given you that extension lease of life through the parents who decided with their son to donate the kidney, and because it could have been a different story.
True.
But He is living through you, and you're living your life because that purpose that God has given you, you're fulfilling it, and He will continue to guide you. And that documentary, the 6 million or whatever the funds are that you need, God will make it happen. I'm not a prophet, I'm not a pastor, but I am just feeling like saying that. I don't know why I'm saying, I just go with whatever comes into my mind. I say,
thank you for that.
So I believe God will provide the resources and will provide the right people, so that you will continue to honor your father with your siblings and generations to come, your children, your grandchildren, so that legacy continues, because that is important. So we see you, we celebrate you. So we have a small token.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you.
You're most welcome.
Wow.
We have a small token.
Wow. My goodness, where did you get? I get this. Oh my gosh.
Token,
I look so young and so innocent.
And you still look very young and innocent. So we just want to say we see you, we're saying we're grateful for
You've always been very good with this kind of
insight.
things.
So you're the key. Leave a legacy. That's a key holder and a mug for you. It's a small token just to celebrate you and to thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. This is going to my cupboard of beautiful. I always have. It's going to be sitting like this. Yes.
So continue to impact lives positively. Continue to take bold steps, and bold moves to just give back. So we'll want to hear more, in terms of what you're doing, and we already would want to see how we can work together with you. Not to reinvent the wheel, but to support each other where we can, and you support where you can in this industry, so that we're able to impact lives more positively.
I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow,
that's all we've got time for, and
it's
Media.
Been I love that honor. Name.
It's
Moves.
Been a marathon. It's been a master class, but that's all we've got time for today. And you can find out more about Brown Panther Films and Swift. We'll share the links under the credit, so that you can support them, or you never know what might be able to come out. So it's about sisters and people supporting each other at the end of the day. So support them, look out for them, and we'll share the contact details like their page, Facebook. You are on all these social media, so we will share all that, at the end of the program. So, well, that's all we've got time. We hope you've been blessed. You've been impacted in lives, and you've been inspired, as well, because it's been a journey of resilience and so much that my dear sister Zanele has shared, and I feel so humbled to call her my friend and sister. And you need to think as well, whose life are you sowing into? Well, till next time, stay safe. Remember, God is love. Take bold steps. And we'll see you next time. Much love. God bless.